12 minutes just past 9 o'clock, and we started with the first guest, resident guest, Dr. Faiez Kirsten, joining me live in studio this morning, and we're talking about the history of money and also where it comes from. Some of the questions we're not able to answer, and quite an interesting clip that I watched about the money creation and society. Pity we are not able to play that clip. Nonetheless, let's welcome Dr. Faiez. Assalamu alaikum and shukran for being here.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Zainab.
How are you this morning?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm very well, alhamdulillah. Always happy to be in your company. Now, I think we can start off with what we intend for the topic this morning in terms of money, because it's quite an interesting topic, and I'm interested to find out, where does this come? Where does money come from, and who creates money?
That was the question I was going to ask you. And ask the listeners to maybe WhatsApp in or phone us in. What do they think money is? Where does it come from? And how does it affect our lives? Because that's really the topic I want to discuss today. So what?
But I was ahead of you this morning.
You beat me to it for sure. The funny thing is, actually tragedy, is that even academics don't really know what money is, where it comes from. Professors, I've had discussions, some of them call it debates, online, and they have no clue. Many of them have no clue, and they're teaching the stuff. They're writing textbooks, they're teaching the stuff, and they don't understand where money comes from or what it actually is. Now, we must understand the difference between money, first of all, and currency. What we refer to as money today is actually not money, okay? It's actually currency. Now, money and currency have the same properties, the same characteristics, except that money has an additional characteristic, okay? So a currency is really a medium of exchange, which money is. You exchange it for something, a good or a service. It's a unit of account. You got to be able to measure what you're buying, so you say this loaf of bread costs 10 rand and that item costs 20 rand and so forth. So it's a unit of measurement or unit of account, as they call it. It's portable, you can carry it around, it's fungible, meaning that it's one unit is exactly the same as the other. If you have 10 rand, I have 10 rand, when we exchange it, we can still buy the same stuff. So it's fungible. It's durable, it lasts, and it's divisible. You can make change with it. But that's currency and money. Money and currency have exactly those same properties, except that money is a store of value, right? So what we're using today as currency has no store of value, okay? Doesn't store value. That's why it becomes valueless over time, okay? So the only thing that is actually really money, where would you find the answer to that question? What actually is money? Where would you find that answer?
You will have to answer that for me.
Well, we have the answer in the instruction manual. The Quran tells you what money is, okay? Money is, like I said, it has a store of value, unlike the currency we use today. And so what stores value for thousands of years? And not only for a short period of time, money is something that has a store of value over thousands of years. So the gold that the Egyptians used 5,000 years ago is still worth gold today. It's still gold today. If the Egyptians used the fiat currency like we're using today, like the rand or the dollar or the Zimbabwean dollar, it wouldn't last, for years like gold does. So the Quran tells you what money is. The gold dinar and the silver dirham. Gold and silver. That stores value for thousands of years. But academics don't know this. Religious scholars have no idea about this. And it's actually a tragedy, because you and I and everybody else are being made poorer and poorer by the fake money that's in the system. And we'll tell you how it's created. And the whole idea is to make us poorer, to eliminate the middle class and the working class. And so those guys who control the money supply, create the money supply, they are in power. So Mayer Amschel Rothschild was the most powerful banker of his time in Europe a few centuries ago. He had 5 sons. And he said, give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. So he understood that if you control the creation of money and the supply of money, you rule the roost. And so today bankers own the earth, and they rule the roost. And they tell us what to do, and they decide who lives and dies, who will be poor and who will be rich, and so forth. So we've lost our way when it comes to money. Okay, so yeah.
Now, in terms of what you mentioned with regards to the Egyptians and using the gold gold dinar and the silver dirham, But unfortunately, we in South Africa, we are not. We can't just use that because we need to.
Well, that's the law. First of all, the Egyptians, they used little pieces of gold and silver, so it wasn't really money at the time.
But
But it had value. And trading was difficult because these weren't like a unit of account. It weren't like each unit was exactly the same, wasn't fungible and so forth. But they used gold and silver. Only later on, in history, later in history, where gold coins were made, basically. You can say around about the Greek civilization in Athens. That was the real time, 630 before BC. Where really money came into existence in the form of gold and silver coins. Okay, it was real money.
But now, when did the fake money that we are using, when did that start?
Well, you got to thank the bankers for that. You see, people used to use gold coins, and in about the 1600s, modern banking actually started in the UK. And then people would deposit their gold coins with the banks, and then what the banks did would give them a receipt, and say, okay, you take this receipt, I'll keep your gold coins. So when you want your gold coins back, you just bring the receipt and we'll give you the gold coins back. After a while, people thought it was a bit cumbersome going to the bank every time to get my gold coin. So they started using the receipts to buy stuff, and the vendors trusted the bank. So they took the receipts, said, okay, I'll give you this loaf of bread for this receipt. And afterwards, the banks really cottoned onto it. They said, wow, maybe we can print more receipts than the gold coins we have. And so they printed more receipts for the gold coins that they had. And that's where modern fake money came into existence, where the banks actually create money, they print money, and no, there's no gold backing it anymore. In fact, in 1971, the gold standard, we call that the gold standard, where currency was backed by gold. Okay, so you could exchange your note, your 20 rand note, your 100 rand note, for a gold coin, but that doesn't exist anymore. So the receipt actually became money, but it's got no backing to it. Okay, it's basically worthless money. And those who create this money, counterfeit the money, make more and more of it, print it all the time. They making the money that we hold in the currency that we're holding worthless, because the more money you put into circulation, the more worthless it becomes. So we'll talk about inflation and the money supply, inflating the money supply, and so forth. So the thing is, you can't print gold and silver, but you can print paper, and you can create digits on a computer screen. And we'll go through the process how money is actually created today, digital money. Of course, 3% of your currency in circulation is actually in the form of notes and coins. Okay, so the 20 rand you have in your pocket, or the 2 rand note, a coin, that is actually created by the Reserve Bank. But 97% of your money today, or your currency, is actually in the form of just numbers on a computer screen. It's called digital money. And how did they create that? How did they do that? Just type it in, okay? And now we'll go through that process, because this is shocking to most people. In fact, I'm going to quote, one of the most famous economists of the time, J.K. Galbraith in America. He said, the process by which the banks create money is so simple that the mind is repelled, okay? Because very few people can actually believe this. I mean, all they do is type it into an account on a computer screen. It's magic. It's like the magician says, look in this hat, there's no rabbit. Then he goes, abracadabra, there's a rabbit. That's exactly what happens when you go take out a loan at the bank. They basically performing magic, and you actually don't know that you are actually a victim of magic. You are being hypnotized. And
we look at money and think that it has value.
It has absolutely no value. It's worthless paper, worthless digits on a computer screen, controlled by people who run the world. And basically that's how they stay in power, and that's how they increase their power, is just by creating money,
But of course it has some sort of value, because it allows you to buy this, that, and the other.
Yeah, sure. Today you'll buy a loaf of bread for 10 rand. You keep that 10 rand for the next 5 years, you'll be able to buy a crumb maybe. That's how much value it has. It actually decreases in value over time, because that's the nature of fake money. When you counterfeit money, the only person who benefits from that counterfeiting is the person who actually counterfeits the money. Okay, who prints the money.
So who's that person?
Those are the bankers, and the government's colluding with them. Okay, and then the next person who borrows the money, they're the next one in line who basically benefits, in a sense, because the money hasn't entered circulation yet. But once they spend that money, now it's in the circulation, now the price of goods and services go up, because as you inflate your money supply, so your prices rise to meet that inflated money supply. So your money that you're holding, your currency, the rands and cents and and coins that you're holding become worthless over time because it's just too much in circulation. So you're
Fooled by the fools.
Absolutely. We've all been fooled because we didn't read the instruction manual, unfortunately.
This is Radio 786 and 100.4 FM, and you are tuned to Community Pulse this morning. We're talking money, the history of money. Dr. Faiez, Kirsten in studio with me this morning. And if you have any questions pertaining to the topic, you can forward your questions to 0786 10 11 12 or 021 699 1786. Now, I've seen after I've did some research that there's a lot of books out speaking about the history of money or where money comes from, especially in UK.
Yes, many books. I mean, publications, articles, tons of them. I've been studying money for.
But does it all tell you the same thing?
There's a lot of misperception and misunderstanding about money, even in academic circles. If you read textbooks, as I say, the people who control the education system will decide what you learn and what you believe about anything, whether it's medicine or cancer or money, okay? Because they control everything, okay? So what I learned at the business school was a lot of it was completely wrong, and I realized that after a while that, hey, this is not right. And I did much research after that and realized basically that we're all being conned. We're basically all playing, in a sense, a huge monopoly game which is rigged against us. So the man in the street has no chance, He's always going to be running on the treadmill until he falls down dead and dies, because that's the way it's designed. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about money, what it is and so forth. But we mentioned that there's a difference between currency and money. So you must understand. Now, Professor Werner, who's a German professor he's based at the Southampton University in the UK. He's professor of economics, and he said it's a waste of time studying economics, and I completely agree with him, because a lot of what you learn is not really true, doesn't really apply to the real world. It's all voodoo, hocus pocus stuff, okay? And so you see, what do you understand about where do you think when you go to the bank for a loan, where do you think that money came from, Zainab? When you go to a bank for a loan, and I don't want to go into the different theories of money called fractional reserve, because that's not true, doesn't apply, and financial intermediation. But I just get an understanding from your perspective. When you go to a bank to take out a loan, which everybody has to do because most people don't have any money, where do you think that money comes from?
I don't know. For me, they probably stole the money at the bank.
Where does it come from? In the store, say it's in the vault, okay? Yeah. Who put it in the vault?
I've never thought of that.
Well, most people haven't, actually. You're not unique, actually. Most people, I asked one person a while ago, where does money come from? And they said it comes from the ATM.
Just on that note, we do have a caller. Let's first go there. This is Radio 786. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. This is a very interesting topic.
Wa alaikum salam.
With regards to money, you know that when you say about it's worthless studying economics, it's gone to such an extent that a lot of our academics, especially in Islamic field, they're so entrenched in this modern day economics that it puts fear in us of living proper lives. As in, we are taught about rules. There's all rules that were invented by some people that want to rule the earth. And, we have to follow this mundane behavior. And this is why, if you look at our situation in South Africa currently, that we are in a drought. People have lost caring. The price of water, basic things, has shot up because people are greedy. They only interested in money. And it's taken, it's basically a lie that we've fabricated by some Jew's imagination. And it's taken everything away from society. Our lives have gone down the drain because we're chasing this thing that doesn't exist. If you look at gold and silver, they are elements on the periodic table. It only can be created by Allah. You can't create that. Even diamonds, you can create that, and it's been proven. You put coal in a pressurized chamber, it can be created. But the real value of gold and silver, those are elements created by Allah, and Allah knows what we need and how much we put on the earth, and this is what we're supposed to seek. But it's with the interest involved in all these new currencies and stuff there, if you look at how we consume and this, greenhouse effect and, all these things that happen in our atmosphere is because we consume too much because we are allowed to buy this fake currency. It gives us the ability to purchase and consume. Whereas if we didn't have it, we live within our means. And this is the problem with society. And we look at all these other options, but we're not looking at what is the root of it. And Allah says in the Quran, He warns the Jews, do not create mischief on the earth. And this is what they have done. And this is the biggest mischief that it created. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. 0216991786. One of the WhatsApp messages that we also received reads, money is not real. Money is an idea. The capitalists create money out of thin hair, which is fraud. The only money is gold and silver. Let's go back to the lines. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. All in the studio, all aboard. Zainab B. What's the Buddha's name again?
Dr. Faiez.
Dr. Faiez, salam, Dr. Faiez.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Doctor, this is Gigi from Navapok. I live in a very poor area. You know, if somebody asks you a rand or 2 rand and you give it to them, it's like you have given them 100 rand. I'm very serious because you can buy 1 rand coffee, 1 rand tea, 1 rand sugar. What I want to say is, money leave you without saying goodbye. Then I want to say, tongue in cheek. My friend always say, hey, geld is niks. Money is nothing. And then the other friend say, yeah, but so na geld is jy ook nothing. So that I want to say tongue in cheek, but money is a very sore problem. May Allah Ta'ala give our people what they need without having to scrunch so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Another question that reads, Assalamu alaikum. As per your information, should we not be buying gold as much as we can now? And how do we go about it? But let's first go back to the lines. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio 786.
Net things on cook, nothing else. Hello?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. We're live in air.
Assalamu alaikum, Janabin. How are you?
Very well, alhamdulillah. Hope you're well too.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. How's the doctor? Okay? He sounds good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, very well,
Doctor, I just want the doctor to add on this discussion. Our Reserve Bank, where we are supposed to tap money from in order to to sort of create jobs and create all these things that our country is needed. Our Reserve Bank is owned by foreigners. That's why this government can't do anything without the consent of those people that's controlling our money. If, for example, if one look how when Cyril Ramaphosa became the president, our ranks all of a sudden became strong. It shows how I hope people can wake up to this reality where our money is controlled by outside forces. The value of our money is controlled by outside forces. We've got all the minerals in the world. We've got all the gold in the world in order to become a very prosperous country. But we can't because our rulers, especially Trevor Manuel and them, Cyril Ramaphosa and them, they're all under the influences of those people. Our president can talk big about this, about that, but without the consent of these people that's controlling them, they will be able to do nothing. For example, they killed Colonel, Gaddafi, because he wanted to hear the dinar in Africa, and because it was going to disrupt the whole world's monetary system, they had to kill him. Please, Doctor, can you just elaborate on that? I will appreciate it if you can do it. Shukran, Doctor.
Shukran so much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. In fact, we just received a message via our Instagram page saying that this is exactly why Gaddafi was killed. Back to the lines. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I was just thinking about this money issue for a long time. I was wondering why. At first, I think money is not valueless. It becomes valueless, just being under correction. And it became valueless, and it still will becoming more valueless. But there's still some value in the money as you see it, and you can still buy something, whatever. It's just the other thing is it not possible to make a note with a gold strip and a silver strip on there, solid gold strip and a pure silver, and the more value, the bigger the strips, wouldn't that work? Maybe you can speak on that.
Inshallah. Shukran. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. We do have one more caller, Dr. Faiez. You're live and assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Titi Rashida, and I've been listening to your radio show, and I find it very, very interesting. Shukran. And I've discovered that real money is gold. And I came across this an opportunity in a system where you can save in gold, small increments of gold that is affordable to the ordinary person in the street. And I just would like to share that with people if they're not aware of what is happening. I just want to share that with them, because I've realized that when you put your money into the bank, you lose the value of the money due to inflation. But if you save your money in gold, you hedge yourself against inflation, and I think that the public and the community should be made more aware of the money. And if people can just listen to programs like yourself and educate themselves and empower themselves, and then we won't have a problem called poverty. And I think what you guys are doing is brilliant.
Shukran so much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we really appreciate the contribution this morning. We also have a number of WhatsApp messages, Dr. Faiez. Now, the topic this morning is money, the history of money. Where does money really come from? Who makes money? Many of the WhatsApp messages are saying that this is exactly why the late President Gaddafi was killed. I think we should boycott all medical aids and insurance policy, private school, because they use our money to buy property, and they own all these big buildings, and you pay your policy for 20 years, etc. And then also now they created something else, the Bitcoin. Can you please explain how that exactly works? Also, ironic, when we send aid to Palestine in dollars, we only help increase the value of the dollar.
Oh, so much to cover. I think shukran for everybody for that input. Really brilliant. Thank you very much. Shukran. Brother Ismail is right. Look, money is, you must understand the globalist agenda. I keep coming back to the globalist agenda, okay? And the central banking system is really the main tool that the globalists use to control countries. So governments are not in control. We need to get that into our head. If you're in awe of a government, then I feel very sorry for you, okay? Because you are on the wrong path, okay? Governments are controlled by forces above them. And the central banking system is the primary tool of power and control. That's why Mayor Amschel Rothschild said, give me control of a nation's money supply, and I cannot make its laws. So, yes, Colonel Gaddafi was killed because he bucked the trend. Also, I think Saddam Hussein, because he sold his oil in euros. If they didn't like that, you must sell it in dollars. Okay, but Colonel Gaddafi wanted to bring in a gold dinar for Africa and the world. And they killed him. But there was also another reason why. It was about water, okay? And that's another story altogether. There's so many points that were brought up that we just won't have enough time to cover them. But certainly money is being used to control governments and everybody across the world, yeah.
Let's go back to
Not money, but currency, sorry.
Let's go back to the lines. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio 786.
Salam to you and to the learned doctor there. It's strange, South Africa, one of the top gold producers in the world. And most of his populace is still in so-called poverty. In similar cases like DRC, top diamonds and what you. So what's the problem? The problem is our rulers. It's not necessary that these people must live in this dire poverty. So to me, it's not really the rules which rule our people, because we run personally. If you look at places like Britain, France, Germany, what's so-called elites, most of their wealth is stolen, because they determine these kind of things. So shouldn't people, we as ordinary citizens, shouldn't we try and tell and get our governments that think in other direction, that the people can derive benefits of this wealth that Allah gave us? Simply because, why even in South Africa, you get people come overseas. They come here with their false money, and they take away of the people's properties. Even we're fighting about water, and who still get the most benefit? Those people. So shouldn't we try and formulate some policy that we, as so-called suffering people, rather make business and have more diplomatic relations amongst ourselves, and try, as they put sanctions on these countries, we put sanctions on them. let them get out of the countries and we make the business amongst ourselves. And maybe you can get a better way forward. Shukran.
Shukran to you. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have quite a number of issues that we need to deal with, and also obviously look at some of the content that you'd like to provide the listeners with. We also need to take a short break, and there's one very interesting message that came through. Yesterday we did a program where we focused on the dowry and conditions around dowry or mahar, and the WhatsApp message says, Assalamu alaikum. Therefore, I personally believe that dowry must be gold.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah.
I definitely. But let's first take the short break, inshallah, and after the break we will continue. And I think that you can WhatsApp your questions, comments to 0786 10 11 12 or 0216 991 786. Money is the conversation we're having this morning with Dr. Faiez Kirsten. After the break we continue. Stay with us. They say money makes the world go round, and we're talking money, the history of money, and also where money really comes from. Dr. Faiez Kirsten in studio on Community Pulse this morning on Radio 786 and 100.4 FM. Quite a number of questions were posed, comments were made, WhatsApp messages we received, and we're still receiving more. And the last point that we departed before the break was that I will definitely be asking gold for my dowry.
Wise go.
So just looking at the actual process of the money making process, take us through that.
A lot of people believe that when you go take out a loan at the bank, that money came from savers. So people go into the bank, they save money, they deposit money in the bank, and then somebody comes along and says, I need a loan. So I go to the bank, and that money comes from the savings that other people made with the bank, their deposits. Nobody's proven that, but that's been taught in business schools, economic schools. There's no absolute proof of that. You read it in textbooks, the financial intermediation theory. Nobody's actually proven that. Then you have the fractional reserve theory. Nobody's proven that either. But Professor Werner made it his duty to do a study to find out how actually does this process work when you go and make a loan, take out a loan at the bank. So he asked, in Germany, he asked quite a few banks. The big banks all said, no, we don't want you to see our process. We don't want you to video it, nothing. We just can't help you, sorry. But there was one small bank who agreed to actually allow him to actually monitor the entire process, okay, of a loan. What happens when you take out a loan at the bank. And he videoed this, okay? And what he discovered was that, when you walk into the bank, there's no money in the bank, okay? So you want 50,000 Rand, there's no money. What you do next is the banker gives you a form and he says, please sign here. It's called a loan agreement. And then he goes behind into his own little office and he comes back and says, oh, well, congratulations, if you look in your bank account, you'll see 50,000 Rand there. We just lent you the money. So you assume, okay, well, it's the bank's money that they lent you. It came from the bank, or maybe it came from the savers. Where do you think that money came from? If it didn't come from the savers or from the bank itself, where did it come from? And I can tell you it didn't come from the savers nor from the bank. It wasn't transferred from one account in the bank or outside of the bank into your account that they just created. Where did it come from?
From the computers.
Exactly. Well, like you said, they just type it in on a keyboard. 50,000 Rand. There you go. But now, the problem is you must pay back 50,000 Rand plus interest, okay? So you don't just owe the bank 50,000 Rand. Now you owe them 50,000 Rand plus interest. Now imagine everybody's owing the bank. Now the interest is not created. It's just the 50,000 Rand. Now imagine the whole world is being loaned currency, but no interest is being created. So there's not enough currency in circulation to pay back all the currency that's owed back to the banks, which means the principal plus the interest. So the system is mathematically impossible because P does not equal P plus I. Principal equals principal. P plus I is principal plus interest. If you must pay back principal plus interest and there's only principal available, how do you do that? You got to have bankruptcies, insolvencies, and that's where we're sitting with. We're sitting with in a world which is created by these madmen, which is completely impossible to live in. That's what we're dealing with. And Professor Werner actually videoed this and he proved that, in fact, money is created out of thin air, out of nothing. It's just typed in digital money into an account. But the problem is the bank actually buys that promissory note from you. So in other words, you write out the loan agreement, which is a promissory note, And what the bank is in the business of doing is actually buying security. So that promissory note is actually worth money now, so worth currency. It's worth value. It has value. So they buy it from you. So in fact, they owe you money, right? You don't owe them money because you created the promissory note with your signature, and then they purchase that security from you. So they must give you money. So they deposit the money into this account, and it's listed as a liability on their balance sheet, and as a loan on the asset side it's a loan, and on the liability side it's a deposit. So they owe you money, and so you don't have to pay it back. But the thing is, if you don't pay it back, you'll see the guys knocking on your door, with these big hefty guys, coming to steal your stuff and beat you up. If you don't pay back money that the bank never lent you in the first place, and you must pay back interest. Don't forget that, okay? And people are losing their homes, their cars, their properties as a result of a fraudulent transaction, a fake transaction, a magical transaction, an inverted, whatever word you want to give it, it's completely criminal misrepresentation that's happening in the banking system across the world.
And we are being deceived like flies.
And this has been proven by Professor Werner. And I'm going to read out, if people go to Science Direct, read the study, the paper's published there, but I'm going to read out his conclusions if you give me some time, maybe 2-3 minutes.
Okay, Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Shall I do that? Okay, I'm going to read his conclusions. And this is for the economists out there, the bankers, everybody who thinks that, the financial intermediation theory is what applies, or the fractional reserve theory is what applies. Let me read his conclusion. He says, this paper was intended to serve two functions. First, the history of economic thought was examined concerning the question of how banks function. It was found that a long-standing controversy exists that has not been settled empirically. Secondly, empirical tests were conducted to settle the existing and continuing controversies and find out which of the three theories of banking is consistent with the empirical observations. 3 theories, but no empirical test, okay? Concerning the first issue, in the paper we identified 3 distinct hypotheses concerning the role of banks, namely the credit creation theory, the fractional reserve theory, and the financial intermediation theory. It was found that the first theory was dominant until about the mid to late 1920s, featuring leading proponents such as MacLeod and Schumpeter. Then the second theory became dominant under the influence of such economists as Keynes, Crick, Phillips, and Samuelson until about the early 1960s. From the early 1960s, first under the influence of Keynes and Tobin and the Journal of Money, Credit and Banking, the financial intermediation theory became dominant. Now, the empirical evidence, which is credit creation theory, supported. The second contribution of this paper has been to report on the first empirical study testing the 3 main hypotheses. They have been successfully tested in the real-world setting of borrowing from a bank and examining the actual internal bank accounting in an uncontrolled real-world environment. It was examined whether in the process of making money available to the borrower, the bank transfers these funds from other accounts, within or outside of the bank. In the process of making loaned money available in the borrower's bank account, it was found that the bank did not transfer the money away from other internal or external accounts, resulting in a rejection of both the fractional reserve theory and the financial intermediation theory. Instead, it was found that the bank newly invented the funds by crediting the borrower's account with a deposit, although no such deposit had taken place. This is in line with the claims of the credit creation theory. Thus, it can now be said with confidence for the first time, possibly in the 5,000 years history of banking, that it has been empirically demonstrated that each individual bank creates credit and money out of nothing when it extends what is called a bank loan. The bank does not loan any existing money, but instead creates new money. The money supply is created as fairy dust produced by the banks out of thin air. The implications are far-reaching. And I will read the implications just now, but I just want to say what Sir Josiah Stamp, who was the director of the Bank of England beginning 1928, said. He said, the modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banking was conceived in iniquity and born in sin. Bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create deposits, and with the flick of a pen, they will create enough money to buy it back again. However, take this great power away from them, and all the great fortunes like mine will disappear, and they ought to disappear, for then this would be a better and happier world to live in. But if you wish to remain the slave of bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, then let the bankers continue to create money and control credit. And there you have it. Anybody want to argue with me? Go argue with Professor Werner.
So in other words, what you are basically telling us is that we are in fact creditors.
We are in fact creditors. We don't owe the banks one blue farthing, okay? They owe us money. Okay, we are creditors, and war is about killing off the creditors. So that's why you have all these wars. It's about killing us off because they know we are the creditors and they are the scumbag debtors.
Now here's one more WhatsApp message via 0786 10 11 12. It is 6 minutes to 10 o'clock on Radio 786. Money is what we're talking about this morning. Assalamu alaikum. When I squared up my bond in 1999, I was penalized for 9 years for paying before the 20 years required. Rather go to the mention of one other bank, find out the do's and the don'ts.
Yeah, you must. I mean, this whole thing's a scam. I mean, banking is the greatest scam on earth. Okay, the greatest scam on earth. The funny thing is, what banks do is they bundle those loan agreements, those loans that they have, all these mortgage loans and so forth, and they sell them off. So it's called derivatives, mortgage-backed derivatives. So they sell off those loans, so they don't even own the loans anymore. But when you default on your loan, then they come and take your house away. But they're not even the owners of those loans anymore. And this derivative bubble that we have in the world today, that's even bigger than the entire world's GDP by several times. Okay, when that derivative bubble pops, forget about the debt bubble that we have in the world today. That's going to pop. Then the whole economy of the world is going to come crashing down in such a apocalyptical fashion that it's too ghastly to contemplate.
Have we mentioned anything about the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, yes, we can talk about Bitcoin. That's a whole story altogether. I have my reservations about Bitcoin, but it has lots of promises. But governments have the power to regulate these things, and they can just make something illegal. Okay, and then what happens now? Even though it's sort of decentralized, apparently it doesn't have any, governments have no power over it, controlling it and so forth. But in fact, in some countries they actually have. They are regulating it, and that's why Bitcoin keeps crashing the value and goes up and down. It's very volatile, very risky investment. But it's digital money anyway. It's not real money. Only gold and silver are actually real money.
Now, earlier I mentioned that as per your information, based on the WhatsApp we received, should we not all be buying gold as much as we can now? And how do we go about this?
I'm not a financial advisor, okay, so I can't advise people. I'm just talking in a general, generic sense. I realized this when I went to the business school, and after I left the business school, we set up called the community exchange system, which was a way of trying to get out of the system, which is a real criminal, disempowering enslavement system. It's about enslaving people, and everybody is really a debt slave today. We think we're free, but we're just basically free-range slaves. So we have this illusion of freedom, but we're actually owned by the bankers and governments and all these satanic people who basically want to own other human beings. And so we set up the community exchanges. But because also mind control, people have this, they don't really understand money. They didn't see the value in the community exchange system. But it has obviously its downside, which is it's control, not control, but there's a central administration point and so forth. But it was a way of trying to get out of this centrally controlled economic system and financial system. We need a decentralized system, basically. And Bitcoin has an attempt to do that.
Now, one message via WhatsApp 0786 10 11 12. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to know what is Sharia compliant that the banks also offer.
I would hate to know, because I think the word Sharia compliant and bank shouldn't be used in the same sentence.
Okay. Now, with about just a minute left to the program this morning, and I can't believe how quick things just went. We normally speak and highlight things that people should be aware of, and I think that very often we may not always give solutions to some of the issues. Now, we've highlighted the history of money, where it comes from, and really how fake it is. What do we do about this?
Well, as I said, I've been trying for years. We set up the community exchange system in healthcare. I've been doing stuff. You got to keep trying, but the problem is what we keep coming up against is people's paradigm. People are programmed. They're under mind control. They have a certain belief system, which is planted there by these globalists. So people hold certain beliefs about different things in society, what affects their lives. So you try to talk about healthcare, they'll just run away from you. You talk about money, they run away because they have a certain belief system about it, and anybody tells them that this is not the truth. And this is actually what is going on. They don't want to actually even hear you out. So this is what we're dealing with. People need to overcome their own, subconscious limiting beliefs, basically. That's really what you're dealing with.
Now, one more WhatsApp message. Assalamu alaikum. The Bitcoin is another scam. It's also made from thin air.
Yes. Look, Bitcoin, I've always had reservations about Bitcoin and the blockchain. It is digital money. I mean, there are people espousing, its value and so forth. But you never know. I mean, bankers are getting involved in the blockchain. And when bankers get involved in the blockchain, then you want to run away in the opposite direction, head for the mountains, But the blockchain seems to have value and, of a decentralized, means of doing things, which we must do, because the globalist agenda is about centralizing power, having one government sitting at the center and controlling the entire world, okay? And if you look at it in terms of a pyramid structure, the base of the pyramid is populated by you and me, the people. And then you have the governments, then you have the corporations, and then you have your banks, your commercial banks, IMF above that, the World Bank, and then you have central banks, central banks and the Bank of International Settlements. So it's a whole pyramid of control. And right at the top you have these Luciferian, bankers, people who run the banks, basically. And then above them are, who do you find above them? Probably Iblis.
Okay, so two things I learned this morning. That the money that we know, it's fake. And the other realization I came to is that I'm definitely asking gold for dowry.
You must. Otherwise, I'll be very angry if you don't ask for gold.
And that concludes this morning's first hour with Dr. Faiez Kirsten, looking at the history of money and really asking the question, where does money come from? Shukran so much for your time. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. And until the next time, inshallah, I bid you assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran, Zainab. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.